back for another episode of
Two Minds, No Limits
with Merritt and Brenna. Today, this episode is going to be focused on relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And Merritt and I are in two very different places when it comes to that area of our lives. And so we're going to talk about it today. Merritt is what I would call loving it and thriving in a relationship. Me, on the other hand, I am loving it and thriving in my singleness. So we're just going to talk about kind of how we got to where we are and just different things that we've been through and key takeaways. So I want to start with Merritt. And I would say as your best friend, I've watched a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say loving it and thriving in a relationship is not always something that I've seen
Right.
from you. But that's where you are now.
Yeah.
And I really like him. So that's great.
That's great. We love him.
Yeah.
We love that for me.
So how'd you get here?
It takes patience, which I'm learning. It takes patience. It takes the hard conversations, understanding, and just putting in the effort and the work on both parts. It can't just be one way. Because it's been that way before, of one person putting in more effort than the other, and it doesn't always work that way. It's not going to work out.
What was the difference, though, with things that you've went through in past relationships to what you experience now with Fiend?
Trust, understanding. I would say trust, because he does his thing, I do my thing, and I don't. There's nothing there. There's no that I don't trust him.
There's no control.
Oh, control. There's no control. There's no control. I don't own him. He doesn't own me.
Yeah.
And he's his own person. And he has his own hobbies and interests that.
It wasn't always that way.
Right. I've been through stress, control, drama, not trusting.
Oh my God. It's creating a trigger. I can just envision us at the bar and you being harassed via FaceTime calls.
Right.
You couldn't go out and have just
it was like I had a boss on me all the time. And it's like, I don't have that. It's if Fiend's out, he's out and doing his thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not checking up on him, and he just does his thing. Same with me.
That's why I like him, because he's not toxic.
Right. I don't think there's
Those
a toxic.
other motherfuckers.
I don't think there's a toxic bone in his body.
No.
But it's great. I love it.
Yeah, I like Fiend. I'm very grateful as your best friend to be able to experience and observe you going through something healthy.
Yeah.
Because it's not always that way. What would you say, going back, what was the deal breaker in your last significant relationship? What finished it?
It was the cheating.
Yeah.
The cheating. And just the circle of lies. It was just a constant, same arguments, same issues. So I was just like, you know what? Something's not working here. We haven't progressed. We're going backwards, it feels like, every time. And I'm not being heard or even seen, I felt like. So I would say that was my ending call. So I was just tired.
Yeah.
I think you get tired of just doing the same runaround.
Yeah. No.
Over and over.
For sure. But not everybody gets tired, because people will put in years of...
Oh, I did my time. I did my time. I was dumb and I did my time.
Yeah.
But it was just like, okay, I'm tired. Yeah. I'm tired of doing this. It gets exhausting.
Anyways, I'm happy for you today.
Total night and day.
Night and day.
Girl.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy, because thinking about when you left that, you were a wreck, dude. Just like all of us would be.
Yeah, I was broken. I didn't know who I was anymore. Literally, it sounds cliche, but looking in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. Yeah. Because it was like, who is this person that allowed all these things to happen and put up with and let slide? because that's not who I was before.
Yeah.
Like, if you would have told me that before, like, oh, this is what you're going to go through and this is what you're going to deal with, I'm like, you're crazy. No.
It just goes to show, like, we can find ourselves in situations that we would say beforehand, I'll never be in that situation. I'll never put up with that type of disrespect. And then all of a sudden, you're in it.
In that situation.
And you don't know, you're struggling to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you went through all of that, and I'm just going to say off top, Fiend is very different than people that you've been with in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you know when you met Fiend that he was
the one
your guy? Yeah,
the one
that he was the one.
I think it's going to come back to trust. I think that's my big one, is that I'm trying not to cough. It's going to be loud.
You can mute it.
Oh. It's always going to come back to trust with Fiend. I think that's what we're like, our solid foundation is trust.
Yeah.
Like, and I believe once that's broken, if that is ever broken, like, it's really hard to come back from.
Yeah.
And we're over a year and a half and solid.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is we built that solid foundation of friendship, trust, patience, understanding, conversation.
Yeah.
Like, we've had the hard conversations, but I mean, he's just a kind person.
Yeah. He is.
Yeah.
I think what I love watching is after watching you in a previous relationship cry so much, stressed out so much, just down and out so much, it's so nice to watch the other side of that.
Right.
And there's a minimal amount of crying. I don't even know if maybe once, maybe twice, but it was something super small. And
Yeah. Me being dramatic.
Watch you laugh more.
Yeah. There's way more joy. There's so much joy in our relationship. Jokes, banter, and we can poke fun at each other.
Yeah.
And sometimes I might get a little salty. But you took it too far.
Yeah.
But no, it's all fun, and I think that's really the best part about Fiend is his like humor, his youthfulness. Like, that's what brings out, I think, the best parts of our relationship.
Yeah.
So it's just fun. It's always fun.
Yeah. No, he's cool. So, just going back to when you were in your healing phase.
Mm-hmm.
What was your mindset at that point after going through what you went through? Did you feel like you had the hope that one day you would be able to experience something so wholesome and so healthy?
Because when somebody more or less brainwashes you into thinking like that was like the best that you're ever gonna find, that was like, and then leaving, it was just like, who am I? Starting new, like putting things in my own head of, do I want to start over? Like all these things. And so I didn't think I would, I thought it was going to be a long time before I found something else. Yeah. But I don't think I'd ever thought that I'd find something like this. Yeah. And this is like this is great. And it's also putting the work of the two of us and picking your battles.
Picking your what?
Battles.
Yeah.
Like, not everything needs to be an argument. Yeah. Not everything is a big deal.
Yeah.
Just because he didn't close the cupboard, I don't need to.
I know your OCD. Like,
I didn't need to flip out. But it's like, not everything's an argument. It's, I think, I know I don't think I did think I'd find something like this. I thought it'd be a long time. It had been a while. But I mean, I dated between that and
but they didn't stick.
Yeah.
They were just, you didn't find that comfort
Right.
for it to stick.
Right.
What were those what were the indications that those were not your person?
There was drama in the beginnings. There was also like stuff that was off the bat. I was like, there's something feels off, something feels weird, something I'm not believing something. So that comes back to trust. And I think that was one of my questions to you, but it was about what's like a advice that I was given. And it was like, I can't wrong somebody for something someone else did.
Yeah.
I can't hold somebody else to that, because how's that fair?
Yeah.
And as much as we want to have our guards up, we have to let them down.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Sometimes it's scary.
Well, I love what you guys got going on.
Yeah.
You and Fee. And he's just a big goof. And again, it just goes to show there is light at the end of the tunnel.
There is.
As far as that goes.
Right.
Because when you were going through that, it didn't seem like you saw that light. Because you're in such a moment of having to, all your broken pieces are shattered.
Mm-hmm.
And you're having to find who you were again, because you had lost her, and how to put those pieces back together like a mosaic, essentially, and leave out the parts that were tainted by him.
Yeah. And I truly believe that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
That people come into your life. And
Yeah.
I think I seen a question. It was like, do you believe in soulmates, or what was soulmates, or I can't remember, but I think it was just, do you believe in soulmates? I don't necessarily. I think, again, everything you go through is for a reason. And I think the troubled relationships I had to go through them to get those parts out of me. And I think I grew from them. Yeah. I took things from them and lost parts of me that needed to be lost. And I grew up and mentally, and to prepare me for this relationship. Because I think if I would have met Fiend years before, I don't think we would have worked out. I don't think it would have been like this. Yeah. And I think that's the beauty that I have to look at from the past, is they've given me something to grow from, to prepare for this to be healthy, and it's something healthy. Because now I know what I'm not dealing with. I know how to help myself, even how to maneuver through conversations better and not get so. But like I was always on edge, so I always had to have like a defense up of like an attack. And it's like, okay, if someone's talking to me about something, I don't have to feel like I'm being attacked. Yeah. And sometimes it is like I'm in the wrong, and I can acknowledge that now, and not be like, well, you did this, you did that.
Because you're not feeling like you're in constant protection mode, because you're just battered all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Not physically battered,
but yeah,
emotionally, that is a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I already asked you that. I don't know. I think I love you guys together. And another thing that I think I really admire is oftentimes when we come out of something so brutal, I think is the best way to put it, it's really hard not to bring those things with us into the next relationship. Those traumas, I guess, is the best way to put it. And ultimately punish that other person when they hit a certain trigger. How have you... I know you spent some time. It was a couple years that you spent time kind of being single. You were by yourself. And you were healing, and you were kind of putting all your pieces back together. But how have you managed that now that you are back in a serious relationship, to not allow triggers to ooze in a negative way?
I think I always have to take a step back before I speak on something. I think that's important too, is a lot of people just speak off of initial reactions and
Guilty as charged.
and emotions. And sometimes I have to kind of let my emotions like settle,
Yeah.
because if I'm starting something, if like I'm feeling angry, I'm going to come off as angry. And then once I take a step back, and sometimes I can take a step back and realize like, okay, I might be the problem.
Yeah.
And then turn it, and I can kind of do like a mental with myself. But before, it was just like at each other's necks.
Yeah.
And we're forced to talk about this right now, and it was anger.
Yeah.
And it turned into bigger fights, and more topics are getting brought up. And now there have been triggers where, and I think I notice it on myself, and it's just like, whoa. Sometimes I don't notice it, and sometimes I'd be like, why am I acting like, why do I feel this way?
Yeah.
And then I have to sit and I'm like, holy cow, like this is a trigger
Yeah.
that I didn't know I had.
Yeah.
So that's the crazy part, is how things like really affect you and you don't realize.
Yeah. And I think that's massive wisdom.
Yeah.
Is when you said, when you're feeling a certain way, you don't react, you don't respond, you allow your emotions to settle out so that you can respond the way you want to, and not out of
Anger.
reaction.
And yeah.
That is a skill, because for the most part, us humans are not like that.
Yeah.
When we feel a certain way, especially a certain negative way, our natural instinct is to just react, to respond, and to protect ourselves.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times if you're in anger, things seem a bigger deal than they really are on surface. So it's like once you say it out loud, it's like, okay. Like
It wasn't even that big.
once the argument's done, it's like, okay, I did all that for what? Like now I just look ridiculous. And it's kind of just like, then we can laugh about it maybe.
Yeah. Well, I love you, obviously, and
Yeah.
I am just, again, very thankful to be able to watch you finally in something wholesome, to where when you call my phone, I'm not concerned that it's you crying on the other end of the line or telling me, girl, I'm on my way.
I'm on my way to take your house.
Yes. Because that was hard.
Yeah.
And so now it's like that PTSD almost that I had as your friend is not there anymore. I don't have that panic of, oh God, what's this phone call going to be?
Right.
It's just, girl, guess what we did last night? You know, and good, funny, happy stories.
Yeah.
I love that for you.
Thank you. All right. Let's see. Brenna's turn to be interviewed. Let's start with, how are you navigating through the single? And I'd say she's flourishing. I would say she's flourishing in this. And it's nice because she's not someone who's like needing to be with somebody.
Yeah.
Like it's nice to see that you have that strong, like you're secure in yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you have to learn that.
Yeah.
Is to learn to be by yourself.
Yeah.
And be
I feel
secure.
like it's maybe a little bit of a catch-22 in just the sense of singleness. I believe it is very important to make sure, if that presents itself to you in your life, like if you've went through traumatic or bad relationship experience, then it is vital that you experience time with yourself, of just healing, of getting to know yourself, of really finding what wholeness is. But when I say catch-22, I think it can be that way because though I've spent that time, I've got very fucking comfortable by myself. And now it's got to a point where I'm struggling with how to remember what that's like to actually do life with a man. But I think also my life is very different. Like, there is no manual for relationships.
Right.
We have to figure this shit out as we go. but I think what I picked up on is, though there's no manual, there is common sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I've picked up on that of, I'm not just gonna be with somebody to just say I have somebody.
Right.
I want to be very intentional about it, and I feel like I've become that way and very selective of, if I'm gonna have somebody, I want it to be because they add to me of what I'm already able to get myself.
Well, yeah.
Which is peace, which is comfort, which is joy, which is stability, which is emotional steadiness. And if there's a man that cannot give that to me, then I don't want it.
Right.
Because I want you to feed into that. And I've met different men, obviously. And there's some things that, some of it just hasn't worked out. But I will say, like, there's guys that I've talked to that I'm still friends with today.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody that you encounter means that they're your forever.
Right.
But sometimes it's just like, it's the wrong time.
Yeah.
But I feel like I observe a lot. Like, I don't really care what you look like. I don't care if you have the newest sneakers on. I don't care what your swagger's like. I want to know, who are you as a person, and how do you deal with pressure? How do you deal with stress? How do you deal with communication? And if you're feeling some type of way about maybe something that I did or a scenario, how are you going to communicate with me about that? Are you going to get crazy? Because I will never fucking talk to you again. That's the stuff, like, I pay attention to. It's like, do you have a mature level of communication?
Right.
And I don't know. I just feel like I've developed this awareness and this common sense of, if I'm going to be with somebody, I want it to be because they add to my life. And
Right.
so until that happens, and they could fit in also with just kind of like my restricted time with the kids and the age that they're at and all the commitments that they have, I'm going to remain very selective
Right.
until it fits.
Yeah. Well, I guess that answers my next question. It was going to be, how would you define a healthy relationship? And I guess that's...
How do I define a healthy relationship? I would say, obviously, we all talk about trust as the underlying thing, but I would say in conjunction with that, it's communication.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where does your communication lie?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you have to be able to talk about not just the easy things, but the difficult things too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in relationships, people get all sensitive about, they're scared to talk about their exes because the person you're with is gonna start getting jealous and insecure. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't come from that. I want to know what you experienced in your background. So talk to me about it. I'm not gonna be that way, but the things we went through prior have a big contribution to who we are as people and how we navigate in things coming next. So it's gonna have an impact on how they're engaging with me. But I think trust is a big one. Communication is a big one. And I would say third is, you don't try to change each other. Like, you can be together, but you are still very much two individuals.
Right.
Like, don't ever tell me I can't go hang out with my friends.
Right.
You know, don't try to change who I am as a person.
Right.
The lifestyle that I have, especially if none of it is unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I don't know, I just feel like that stuff is super vital, but for me, it's communication.
Yeah. And there was something you said, the part about communication that I want to add to is, after having the hard conversations and on either side having someone pointing out, like, hey, I didn't appreciate how you did that.
Yeah.
What speaks volumes to me is, for instance, we have these conversations, Fiend and I, and something I've never experienced before is someone saying sorry and then actually changing their behavior.
Yeah.
That's huge. Instead of just an empty sorry of, okay, I'm sorry. Sorry you felt that way. And then boom, we're right back at it.
Yeah.
It's, this person actually took in what I said and actually is making an effort to not repeat those.
Exactly.
Like, that's huge.
Yeah. Communication is not just speaking and talking. it's also the ability to listen and to understand.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of us fail, is somebody's talking to us and we're already putting together what our response is going to be because we want to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
But I think a huge skill in communication is just shutting down what we're trying to put together for a response, of listening to that person and trying to understand, even if we can't understand.
Right.
Being able to put ourselves in the shoes of that person.
Right.
Because we can do that.
Right.
And it allows things to just go a lot smoother.
All right. My next question, how would you say dating is compared to now with your kids being older compared to when they were younger?
Oh God. This is like a weird question because I feel like I was a very different person when my kids were younger. I feel like I was still very vulnerable. I was very head in, and if I connected with you, it's like, all right, let's run and let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
A big part for me, and a lot of people may not believe in, it was like, I'm not going to waste all this time just getting to know you and then introduce you to my kids way down.
Yeah.
It's like, first I'm going to make sure, all right, I'm feeling good about you. I feel safe, like you're a safe person to be with. But I need you to meet my kids because I need to make sure they are compatible with you and you are compatible with them. Otherwise this whole thing is pointless.
Yeah, before wasting time.
Yeah, so I've talked to, after my divorce with their dad, I dated a couple people and they were involved with my children. And I allowed that, and I would never put my kids in dangerous situations. No. You know that. And they were good people.
Yeah.
But I would say it's different because my children were younger, so there was a heavy reliance on, we couldn't just go and party, because I was in my mid to upper 20s.
Right.
It's like, no, we were going to the family fun center.
Yeah.
It's like my kids had to be a part of the equation. And I would say there was two big relationships of people that I dated after my divorce, and one of them, it just wasn't, it was the front. And he was more about me and really wasn't about my kids, and so that ended.
Yeah.
About 9-10 months into that relationship. But the other one, he was fully invested with the kids. He just ended up choosing a different path. And so that's when I severed that, because I wasn't going to go down that road again. But
right.
he was great with my kids. But I would say, like, today, it's very different as far as, like, I do things 99% for my children. 99.9%.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm working, now there's sports involved. My daughter's in high school. She has obligations. She has friends. They're always needing me to take them places. So my availability is so limited.
Yeah.
And finding somebody that understands that. Like, I'm going to make plans to go on a date. But the night before those plans, my whole agenda could change because something shifts with my kids.
Yeah.
And it's being able to meet somebody that has that understanding and can be flexible with that. And that's difficult. You think it wouldn't be, because I'm like, I get that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I would never get mad at that. I get it. I'm a parent.
I think it'd have to be someone who is a parent already.
Yeah.
And can understand the limited availability. Yeah. And just having to be, and a single parent, well, obviously, but that would understand. But to be like, oh no, I get it. Yeah. I get, like, things change last minute. Yeah. I get you got to be here and there and XYZ.
And then truly mean it and not just say it because you feel obligated to say it.
Because I think it's different for men and women. Because obviously I don't have kids. Yeah. But being with someone who has a child, and if he tells me, like, I got to do this for her, I got to, take her here and there, and or, spending time with her, it's like, okay. Yeah. Like, I think women are just more understanding, because I think majority of women, we have a motherly instinct to know. Yeah. Just common sense. Yeah. I think men are just different. I don't think they're programmed.
I know.
Unless they are a father with children,
Yeah.
then they would understand. They would get it. But other than that, I think it's kind of just so like, what? Like,
Mhm.
you told me you can't get a babysitter? You can't,
Yeah.
they can't take the bus? They
What do you
can't.
mean our plans are canceled?
Yeah.
But it's like earlier, you know how you said you put parameters on yourself at one point of you didn't want to date anybody with children.
Mm-hmm.
And you really shortened the odds, you
Yeah.
know, of you finding your person. But I feel like I'm that way as far as I feel like I can't I don't know if I could or if it's in the best interest for me to date somebody without kids.
Right.
But I feel like it only makes sense in
Yeah.
my case.
To be with someone with kids.
With kids.
Yeah.
Because they come with an understanding that most people without kids just don't have. I mean,
Yeah.
could be there, but naturally, like, it's not going to be there.
Right. That makes sense. Right. We can take it to our questions.
Yeah. Okay, so we put a a story up on Instagram and asked a few questions, and we had a couple come in, and so the first one that we were asked is, what was the most embarrassing thing that has happened to you on a date?
Me first?
Yeah, you first.
We're gonna have the same, but it was I would say it'd have to be with Fiend. And it wasn't technically a date, it was like the first time we like it was a double date.
Yeah.
But I don't think we knew we were on a double date. It was just four of us, and I proceeded to get pretty drunk, and we were on the couch talking, and then I was like, I gotta go. And I went to the bathroom and threw up. And then I was like, I threw up, and our friend was with us. She was with me in the bathroom. And I think I was peeing, and she's still in there talking to me. And I don't know if I was crying. I might have been because I was throwing up. And he like opened the door, and I was like, get out. And then now look at us. I didn't scare him. But I think that would be probably like, dude, you saw me puking.
Yeah.
You saw me sitting on the toilet peeing. And you're still here.
I would have to say mine was also a guy that I was dating. It was fairly new, but we were out. I got very drunk, and I went back home with him, and I was wrapped around his toilet, like on my knees, just sick. And he has it's either a picture or video of it that he will send me periodically. And that's embarrassing. Like, you just meet somebody and you're just in a very nasty situation.
Yeah.
Hugged up on a toilet. He continued to talk to me after that. Anyways, we don't date, but him and I considered, I still have contact with him. He is
Yeah.
Another question we are asked is, what if a guy doesn't seem happy around you, but claims he likes you? What would you say to that?
Here comes reacting off like when I first hear it, I'd say run. That's my first initial reaction.
Okay.
But then I guess you have to really know that person, because sometimes men are just, they're hard to read.
Yeah.
And so if his personality is just like that all the time,
Right.
even with his friends, like he's just kind of quiet and keeps to himself, then I would say just, ask the question, ask the hard questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the hard questions are important, but I would pretty much say the same thing. People, especially if it's a newer person, you're still learning that person on their communication, kind of their personality. Are they laid back? Are they busy? Are they upbeat? It could just be they're not the greatest at face expression, like
Yeah.
being able to physically show that they're happy. But if he claims, I mean, you have to, if somebody's saying something, believe them.
Until they give you a reason not to.
Yeah, until they give you a reason not to. But you can't, I mean, if they don't show it on their face, I mean, that could just really be them as a person. Like, I think of Chris and AJ.
Mm-hmm.
Like, AJ is a very steady
Yeah.
person. And he's not busy and, like, have all this, like, busy, loud reaction to
Yeah.
things. He's a very calm, he's a very steady person. And so if you look at him, he doesn't have that beaming smile on his face 90% of the time. Like, he's just laid back.
Yeah.
And he's happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Him and Chris are happy.
Yeah.
So,
Like, his mad face could be that he's happy or he's mad.
exactly. Yeah. So I would just say don't read into it and ask the hard questions. And if they say they're happy, then leave it. Don't press the matter. Like, okay, and then the last question that we were asked is trauma through childhood. How it gets brought up through relationships. Like, how did trauma through your childhood surface in relationships that you were in?
For me, I would say a lot of the examples of relationships that I have in my family, the woman is like the head honcho.
Yeah.
And I think in a previous relationship before that I have had, it was like that, where I was like, it's my way or the highway. Like,
Yeah.
we're going with what I do, what I say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how I mean, most of the women in my relationship and my family are like that. And so I've had to learn, like, I think kind of like seeing it too as like, whoa, like, let them have a say.
Right.
Like, not everything, doesn't have to be my way all the way. And it's actually nice.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually like freeing to not be like that.
Yeah.
To just have like a go with the flow.
Exactly.
And just like, I don't need to be a boss all the time.
I know. It's easy.
Yeah, it is. It's like, I don't need to be in charge. Like, I don't own anybody.
Yeah.
And do you.
Yeah.
Not like, hey, I said that we were going grocery shopping at this time. Like, what do you mean you have plans?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's okay. I prefer to grocery shop alone.
Pick your battles.
Right.
Pick your battles.
So I think that would be mine that got brought up.
Yeah. Well, that is our episode today that we have for you based on relationships and kind of just going over the different areas of where Merritt and I are at in our lives, in a relationship, in singleness, and kind of things that we've just experienced along the way and we've learned.
Right.
But that is all we have for you today.
I did want to say, if you send in questions or like answers like that, you will stay anonymous.
Yes.
You will stay anonymous. I was like, I wonder if people are afraid to like say things because they might not know. Like, oh,
Yeah.
Ashley sent this in, and it's like, no, like, everything's anonymous.
Yeah.
Unless you want to be shouted out.
Yeah, you'll have to put that in there if you want to be shouted
If
out.
you don't care, but
Yeah.
yeah, we're not calling anybody out.
Yeah.
And we don't pass any judgment if you have something.
Not at all, because we've just been there, done that.
Yeah.
But
We've seen it all, heard it all.
yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much for tuning in.
Thanks,
today,
guys.
And we will see you guys next
Next
week
week.
for